Hi, I'm Kassia with Intuitive Insights. On this channel, we discuss everything to do with the Ascension process. Today, I'm going to be doing a video for you guys on the Neptune retrograde, which began on the 23rd and will go until the 29th of November. So this video is being filmed in case somebody's finding it later in the month of, well, that took me a second, in the month of June. So from June 23rd until November 29th, 2020, we will be experiencing this lovely, lovely Neptune retrograde. Any of you who are familiar with this channel know how we do these retrograde videos. So we're going to start out a little bit just kind of talking about Neptune and the energy of Neptune, and then sort of what we can expect from this retrograde, the different issues that are likely going to come up, the different aspects of ourselves that we're going to be reviewing. Whenever we're talking about a planet going retrograde, we're talking about a very internalized process, right? When the planet is going direct, and I use the quotations because this is all just relative to our perception from Earth. But when our planet appears to be going direct, the energy and the way we perceive and experience that energy is much more, has more momentum. It's much more action oriented. And when a planet is retrograde, it's like we take that step back, and it's that internalized process. It's that reviewing process that we have going on. And this has been a pretty intense year because of a lot of things. But as far as even just the retrogrades go, we've had almost every single planet at this point. Luckily for us, Venus is, and actually I don't want to say that because that kind of reinforces this bad rap that the retrogrades get. And I don't like to reinforce that because it's really a wonderful opportunity that we have to get in touch with a different aspect of ourselves. We talk about this especially when we talk about the Mercury retrogrades, which is going on right now. It affects a lot of our speech, so I'm going to use that as an excuse if I fumble a little bit with my words or get a little confused. Even though those of you who are familiar with this channel know that tends to happen anyway. But it can happen a little bit more because Mercury rules speech and communication in the mind and all of that, right? So we have that going on. We do have the Venus retrograde ending today as I film this video, actually. Venus will still be in shadow until the 29th of July. And so what I mean by shadow is Venus stations retrograde, moves, right, retrograde to a certain point where it stations direct, and then there's the shadow period where it crosses back over the terrain that it covered during the retrograde. And so we're still feeling the energy. We don't feel that full momentum until the planet traces back over that shadow period. But we are out of the official retrograde of Venus as of today. So there's a separate video on that. I encourage you guys to check that out. That had to do with a lot of our relationships and our sense of self-worth, our values, right? All of this different stuff, the ways that we give and receive love. And I guess it's interesting. I was wondering why I'm talking about Venus so much. And I guess it's because Neptune is considered to be a higher octave of the planet Venus in a lot of ways. So they have some of that similar kind of energy. You know, Neptune, like Venus, is a very creative energy. Neptune is a very, at least to me, can be sometimes seen as a bit of a feminine type energy. Although a feminine, but also kind of like Uranus, like a little bit androgynous almost. But still it has that soft, dreamy quality, right? Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. And so when we think about Neptune, we can really like sink into that Piscean energy to kind of understand Neptune and the way it functions. Because the signs that a planet govern tend to function the way that planet functions. It's sort of like us acting out the function of the planet as an entity, right, is sort of like the zodiac sign. And so Neptune can be difficult to really pin down, right? Because it represents the unknown. It's the mystical, it's the collective unconsciousness. It's, the 12th house kind of stuff, right? Like if you know anything about the houses of astrology, Neptune rules the 12th house, Neptune in Pisces. And so, it's the unknown. When we talk about the 12th house, we talk see, tongue-tied. The 12th house, we talk about the house of our undoing, right? And these things are our undoing only because we're not consciously aware. So it's the things that we're not consciously aware of that we're acting out anyway. And so when Neptune can represent illusion, right? Like it's hard to really see clearly sometimes. And so when Neptune goes retrograde, it's interesting because it can often be sort of like the opposite energy. It's like anywhere where we were deluding ourselves, all of a sudden we're faced with the reality. And in this vein, sort of as well, like Neptune can represent escapism and stuff like that, substance abuse, addictions, all that sort of stuff. And so anywhere where that's playing out in our lives is going to be very apparent during this retrograde as well. Like we're not going to be able to hide from anything. It has really a kind of a similar energy in that respect to Pluto, except the Neptune energy is much more mysterious. Pluto's sort of like the in your face kind of energy, right? And Neptune, it's like these things are going to be revealed to us, but it's like this peeling away of that. And yeah, it's just, I guess in a way gentler than Pluto, but it still has that kind of vibe. Like I'm feeling that kind of same vibe for a lot of people during this retrograde. Neptune represents a lot of really cool and awesome things as well, right? Like Neptune, it's, if we look at it from an astronomy point of view, right? Neptune is actually the final planet that separates our galaxy and sort of all of the other known planets from whatever else is out there. There's like a whole, they call them the trans-Neptunian planets, I believe. But all of these other just massive astrological masses of energy and rock and, you know, whatever, that are kind of floating out, they have in this belt beyond Neptune. And it's just like basically the whole known world is over here, and then Neptune is the thing that separates the known world from the unknown world. And so it's sort of, some people refer to it kind of like the window that we gaze out at the rest of the universe from. It's sort of, it connects us to everything else. It is sort of that connecting energy, right? So when we look at the known planets, those are like, that represents the ego, that represents the framework of our human identity. And so when we hit Neptune, it's like all of a sudden whatever's out there is beyond the ego, beyond what we can know, beyond what we can comprehend. And Neptune is also often known, and I refer to it a lot, as the great dissolver, right? So if we're thinking about it in terms of this planetary body or entity that sort of, oh, and there goes my train of thought. This has been happening a lot. Apparently this is an Ascension symptom. It's been getting a lot more intense for me. Just mid-speech, I forget what I'm talking about. It's been pretty intense. If any of you guys have that going on, like my memory has never been great, but it's just getting worse and worse. And supposedly I'm told that this partially has to do with the fact that when we move into a fifth dimensional consciousness, it's that knowing. Like we have that knowing, we don't need to function through our brain and our memory and all of that anymore, because we just intuitively know and remember, right? So we're starting to lose that so that we connect more with our intuition. But now I remember, right? So where I was going with that was, so Neptune being the great dissolver is this process of Neptune going retrograde, I see sort of as like an ego dissolution. So we've been in this process for a while. A lot of planetary energies have been helping with this. The Ascension in general is all about the dissolution of the ego, at least in the ways that we understand it. So yeah, it's, and Neptune in and of itself is very much about that. So I'm feeling really a strong energy of that energy that we've been building up to, right? We have Pluto and Jupiter and Saturn that have been making these conversations and these conjunctions. We have the next Pluto Jupiter conjunction exact on the 30th of this month, the second of the 3 of 2020. And that's definitely been burning away that ego energy, right? But like now, it's Neptune is just dissolving it. So it's sort of like it's been loosened up, and we've been burning it away, and we've been looking at it, and we've been releasing stuff, right? And now Neptune's just coming in to assist with that process and just dissolve everything else. So that can be a little bit scary. You know, it's going to be this time where we may not, we may feel even more confused than usual. It's like we're starting to realize where we've been deluding ourselves, but that may not bring us clarity right away necessarily. We may feel even more confused, like everything that we thought that we knew isn't necessarily true. And so what do we do then? What do we know? And so what Neptune asks us to do is step into that space of like, I don't know anything at all. Because when we're in that space, all of a sudden we're teachable and we're curious and we're open. And that's what Neptune is wanting us to do, is really be open. Neptune is a planet that represents spirituality. And so I think it's really significant that Neptune is going retrograde at this time, right? At 20 degrees, right? So we've had all these 2s and all these 20s. You know, we're in the year of 2020. There's been a lot of repeating astrology around the 20-degree points and just that energy anyway. So I find that really interesting that it's starting out at 20 degrees retrograde. But yeah, you know, it's as this great awakening progresses, we are taking a different look at spirituality. So this is really asking for a lot of people who haven't really thought much about spirituality yet, they're going to be thinking a lot more about it. And for those of us who have like this set of beliefs of like, I know this and I understand this and this is true and this is my spiritual path, this is my religion, this is my whatever, we're going to be questioning that. We're going to be opening ourselves up to the fact that maybe some of these deeply held beliefs aren't necessarily real. What else is out there, right? We're going to be opened up to just more and deeper levels of our spirituality and of just our interests, right? When it comes to anything mystical, anything occult related, anything like astrology related, right? All of these different subjects. I think a lot of people are going to be drawn more into information about the Ascension and sort of really, I think for a lot of people it's going to be really helpful because they had no idea what was going on and now they're starting to realize that this is a collective thing that's happening. So that's going to be really interesting. And the collective consciousness, I want to really emphasize this, and I've experienced this myself, and it really helped me to understand what was going on. As I was sort of going over the information about the Neptune retrograde, I realized what was happening to me. So because Neptune represents the collective unconscious, when it's going retrograde, it's this internal process, right? It's really deepening that. We are feeling even more connected to that collective unconscious, that collective consciousness. And because of that, we're going to possibly be picking up on a lot more of those collective energies. The first couple days that Neptune went retrograde, so it stationed on the 22nd, and then it began its retrograde movement on the 23rd. And the day that it stationed, and for a couple days after, I had the worst anxiety. It was absolutely terrible. And I knew, because I tend to be actually kind of a rather anxious person anyway. I have a lot of mercurial energy in my chart. I have a nervous temperament. There's a lot going on with that. But this was like above and beyond. And I sensed that some of it was collective. I just didn't understand. I was like, am I not shielding myself as well as usual? Like, am I not clearing my energy? Like, what's going on? And then I realized that I was really picking up on this collective energy. And so, like, it's really important to be shielding ourselves, to be asking our guides, asking our angels, whatever beings we connect with, asking our higher selves to really build this impenetrable fortress and shield around our energy so that we're not taking in all of those extra collective energies. You know, Neptune is very much the energy of the martyr, right? And so this is energy as we're moving out of the age of Pisces. This is energy that we're moving out of. So it's this victim mentality, this powerlessness, this martyr type energy, right? Like putting others before ourselves to the detriment of ourselves. And so these are other themes that are going to be coming up for us to look at and really see where we play our part in that scenario. I've talked about this before. I found it really interesting. This couple that do these Ascension talks, Sri and Kira, they talk about some really interesting stuff, and they were talking about this whole dynamic that's been very much ingrained in our collective consciousness that we're moving out of, which is this victim perpetrator savior complex. And which part, if we play a part in that, what part that is. and just really examining those energies. So I feel like those energies are going to be coming up for people too. It's going to be a lot of different stuff around all of that different stuff. Neptune also is the planet, because it connects the known with the unknown, right? Like we have Uranus is also very much about this energy. So I equate both Uranus and Neptune with like the extraterrestrial type of energy. And so, people who are more, if you're more open, when we talk about the Ascension, we talk about star seeds a lot and stuff like this. And so if that's a term that you identify with, then this will be probably a little bit more easily digestible for those of you who are maybe on the fence about whether we're alone in the universe. We're not. For the sake of agreement on this channel, my personal experience and the interactions that I've had and just the information that I've channeled and that I've read that's resonated with me, like we're definitely not alone. And so there's going to be a lot more interest in the extraterrestrial, in the alien, right? There's probably going to be even a more increased contact because that veil is going to be even thinner, right? Like Neptune represents that veil. And that veil is like peeling back. And so I foresee a lot more people getting interested in the idea of star seeds, the idea of extraterrestrials, of other galaxies, other planets, all of that different stuff. Just really sinking in more into the collective consciousness and collective awareness. And I also feel that because of this energy that we have going on, it's going to be even like we're going to be receiving downloads and we're going to be receiving light codes, and like the information that these beings are able to send us and transfer to us during this period, I think is going to be like, it's going to be a lot more. We're going to see an increase in that. We're going to really, I think, need just even more rest, which I know I hate hearing that. I'm sure you guys hate hearing that. This can be a very tiring process sometimes because we are receiving so much. Our entire physicality is changing. Our energy systems are changing. They're advancing to support the light that we're holding. The fact that we are taking our physical bodies into a 5-dimensional non-physical reality and melding those dimensions and realities together, like that's a lot, and it takes a toll on the body. And we are being sent everything that we need to receive in order to be able to move through this process. But it requires a lot of rest. So I think during this time from now until the end of November, people are probably going to be feeling that even more, like maybe just even more drained, especially if you're not shielding your energy and you're really connecting in with that collective consciousness. So it's so important to be doing that, just setting that intention, just, looking up energy clearing meditations. I've been talking about it for a while. I will, I think it is really important to put one of those out for you guys, but you can definitely find those as well. And just like asking for that shield to be placed around you and just really going through that process of doing that repeatedly and just releasing the energies that are no longer serving us. We can do this through grounding, just placing your hands on the earth. Mother Gaia is happy to receive. You thank her for that, but she's happy to receive that. Your guides and your angels, if you're willing to release it, are willing to take it. And honestly, Kayla and I both do energy healing sessions. So that can be really, really helpful too. I cannot emphasize how helpful that will be. I do a type of energy healing called Belvaspata. It works with angelic frequencies. It works with rays of light and emotion. It was gifted to humanity to assist with the ascension process. It's very similar in the way that it's performed to Reiki. I know a lot of people are more familiar with that energy. So it's just, it's another form of energy healing like Reiki that is more tailored to the changing energies of the planet, and really helping to assist with that, and really helping to assist in opening up that heart chakra, which is our center to receive, which is our connection to the 5th dimension. That is our gateway into it. And so I offer energy healing sessions with that. I offer energy healing sessions where we can really discuss your intentions, any blocks that you're working on or trying to move through, healing your inner child. There's so many different things that we can do. We can do readings in combination with the energy healing. That's really one of my favorite ways to go about this. I mean, please reach out to me if you're interested in those services. I'm Kassia. My information is in the description box below. Kayla does energetic healing as well and readings as well. Her information's in the description box below if you resonate with her. Just wherever you're feeling drawn, like, we're here to assist you guys through this process. So I really wanted to throw that out because it's so important and it can be so, so, so helpful. But it's just about really nurturing your body through this process, nurturing your soul and nurturing your body, and just staying open-minded. We're going to be throwing some curveballs. It's going to be, it may be a little bit jarring when some of these, if we're hanging on to these illusions, if we really identify with these illusions about who we are, about what the world is, about what spirituality is, what God is, right? Even like what we believe to be true about the Ascension, like any of this stuff, anything that we're hanging on to, if we're holding on to it too tightly, it will be a jarring experience when the veil is sort of lifted from our eyes. However, if we're in that state of wonder and just openness to receive and just learn, then it can be a really beautiful process. And yeah, like I said, like, we're here to help you guys through that process every step of the way. So we're going to, I don't even think I need this. I had notes just to kind of, for the things that I was feeling, but I think that's pretty much it. Okay, yeah. So I also do want to mention that because Neptune is related to all of this mystical type energy, right, in the unconscious, like, dreams may be more active than usual too. We may be receiving a lot of messages in our dreams, communications. Just pay attention to your dreams because they may be really interesting. They may be really prophetic. You may be receiving a lot of downloads, a lot of communication through your dreams. So definitely, like, be aware of that kind of energy. And yeah, I feel as though there's a video, if you guys want to check it out. It was a great video. So much good stuff on the 4/4 portal, right? When we had this next wave of light workers sort of activated. And so I feel like some of those light workers were sort of like sleepers. Like, they were activated, but they haven't been fully aware that they were activated yet. Like, they've noticed something was different, but not really known what that is. And I feel like they're going to kind of wake up during this Neptune retrograde. And really, as they start feeling into this energy of exploring their spirituality and questioning the things that the truths that they've held around those concepts, and kind of opening their minds and their perceptions to things, they're going to start realizing and connecting in with this process that's been underway that they maybe haven't been aware of. So if any of you are tuning in and finding this video for the first time and you're like, what the hell is the Ascension? What is she talking about? What's the starseed? What's a light worker? Definitely check out the 4/4 portal video and just browse through our different playlists. We have informational videos where we talk about some of these concepts and some of these things, but I don't know that we have one yet on starseeds. And we try to stay away from the labels, but a lot of people really do identify with them. So essentially, a starseed is somebody who feels as though they were sort of called to the earth from another dimension or another reality to help assist with the earth's awakening process. And a light worker, starseeds and light workers often, in my experience, are one and the same. Light workers are people that were put here to be those anchors for that light energy, and often are healers and people that transmit that energy, but they do it naturally without even doing it. Like, it doesn't have to be an intentional process. Light workers are just here adding their light to the grid, to the earth, to help uplift humanity. And sometimes they're just being here and being naturally attuned to receive these frequencies is their entire job, right? And so, yeah, these are just some of those terms that we throw around. The ascension is this mass awakening that's happening on the planet as we are transitioning from a third dimensional and fourth dimensional reality, which is like time, space, solid, like this is a table, this has always been a table, this always will be a table, into like more flowing, like the energy of unconditional love and just like connection, and more into that collective space, right? And that energy of like, this is a table, but this is just made of matter that's vibrating more densely and more slowly, and I can actually focus my intention on this table, speed up the energy of those atoms, and create something different out of it. Like that's my sort of my vision of some of the stuff, like these things, these supernatural powers that really are things that we're all capable of doing in our true state, are going to start developing. Like we're starting this, it's starting in the little ways, like we're tapping into our intuition, we're tapping into our insight, and Neptune governing those things. I feel for a lot of people that it will actually be a deepening of that intuition and that whole psychic process, right? We're tapping into, it's these little things and these little abilities that we tap into first. And as the consciousness raises and as we become more aware of the fact that we are all aspects of source consciousness, we are all God consciousness being expressed through a different lens, right? We're all different fractals or fragments of that one original God consciousness. As we start understanding this and learning how to utilize this, like we're going to be like more and more possibilities are going to open up for like the truth of what we are capable of. And so, yeah, I think we're gonna be realizing some kind of hard truths in some manners during this retrograde, but we also are gonna be realizing some pretty sweet truths and really sinking into the feeling of that. And I'm actually wanting to pull some of the Work Your Light Oracle cards right now. So we're gonna pull some of these and see what these have to say. Neptune Retrograde 2020. Neptune Retrograde 2020. See what advice, what guidance, what information Spirit has for us for Neptune Retrograde 2020. Okay, so we got Priestess. How are you being called to step up and lead? And I absolutely love this card. It reminds me of, I always think of ancient Egypt when I see it. I mean, we've got the pyramids. She's got the headdress with the serpent and the wings. Like, some aspects of her remind me a little bit of Isis, if any of you resonate with Isis. And if you do, you can definitely call on her to help you. When you're talking about shielding your energy, she's great at that. I ask her to reinforce my energy grid all the time. My Merkaba when I'm meditating, when I'm astral traveling. I mean, she's just this beautiful, divine, feminine goddess, right? So some of you may connect with her. And if you're feeling that connection with her, then definitely look into that more. Because she may have some messages and some secrets to tell you, some things to show you about yourself. I'm also, for some reason, being guided in case there's somebody watching who's connecting with Isis. And I want to tell you to check out this as well, the Isis Oracle deck. I think I'll probably pull a card or two from that after this. But definitely check that out. It's a really great, I mean, the cards are absolutely amazing, whether you personally identify with Isis or not. But if you do, I mean, there's amazing rituals in there, and just the whole deck is phenomenal, and it can really help to deepen your connection with her. So there's somebody who this is really resonating with, who's going to go, hopefully, and buy that deck. Like, definitely do. It's one of my favorite decks. But yeah, I'm just feeling like our inner high priestess, right, is being called forth. And so we're really seeing, and this has been an energy, not just with the Neptune retrograde, but just an energy in general, where we're really seeing, we're learning who we are. So when we talk about the ego death, right, the dissolving of the ego, it's like we're allowing that process to dissolve who we thought we were so we can step into who we are. And as we step into who we are, we're going to know, like, so many of you are leaders. You know, you're leaders, you're pioneers, you're warriors. And so you're being called to step into some aspect of your life. And this may not mean necessarily doing like making videos on YouTube or being a public speaker. This may just be for some of you, this may be for some of you a specific role in your life that you're being called to step more firmly into. You realize it's time. So whatever this is, for some of you, it's like taking the lead in your own life, right? We talk about Neptune, it's like getting out of this powerlessness energy, this victimhood energy, right? It's really taking responsibility for your own lives and being called, like being that leader for yourself, right? And that will be an example that other people will follow. But it's really about learning how to do that for yourself as well. Like, how are you being called to step up and lead for yourself, for the ones that you love, for whoever, whatever it is, that what cause you resonate with, whatever it is that you resonate with, how are you being called to portray that more? How are you being called to step deeper into yourself? That's a really intense energy that we're experiencing with this retrograde, like stepping deeper into yourself. So yeah. And for some of you, some of that information may come to you in dreams. And then we have Kassia, your guidance. Your guidance is divinely guided. Yeah. I had to double check. It said guidance and guidance. But yeah, so like we said, that guidance, that divinely guided guidance, for some of you, that is going to come in the form of your dreams. For others of you, it's going to come in the form of these serendipitous conversations that you have with people. Like if certain topics keep coming up over and over and over again, or certain images that you keep seeing, certain places that keep getting brought up, or you see signs for, or just, you know, a commercial comes on TV that contains an image, or whatever these like synchronistic events, like pay attention to those and pay attention to what's being talked about and just the guidance that you're being given, you know, like the random people that just stop and talk to you and start talking about something that's relevant to your life. Like if it's resonating or you're feeling something in your gut, or like don't dismiss that feeling. Understand that like that's not a coincidence. That's happening for a reason. You are being guided, and the more you listen and pay attention to that guidance, the more guidance you receive and the more you get into that flow, right? That Neptunian flow. And so just really allowing that to happen, right? Like, yeah, we're being guided in so many ways. We're being guided to like, right, that inner high priest, that inner high priestess on our path, right? We're being guided down the path of our soul, the path that our soul mapped out for us before we even incarnated, right? And so this is the Akasha, right? So this speaks of the Akashic records, which are the records of everything that ever did happen, will happen, is happening, could possibly happen. All of that knowledge and information. Like for some of you, you're going to be tapping into that. But like that, in that energy is everything that you could ever need to know, right? And that, like in those Akashic records, who you are and what you're doing, and you know, like your path, all of that is, all the infinite possibilities of that are all laid out, and you're being guided down the path that is most beneficial for you at this time, toward the timeline, toward the reality that is most beneficial for you at this time. So really, really follow that guidance. This is such a pivotal time as far as us really following our dreams. You know, we're going to do a video on the final eclipse of this lunar cycle, which is happening on July 5th. And I'm really feeling that as like a really firm closing out of old timelines, right? And we talk about this. We've been doing this for a while, but this is like a really firm one, as we're moving into a new energy, right? If we're willing to let go, if we're willing to do what Neptune is asking us to do and allow all that is not real, all that is not serving us to dissolve, right? It's like Neptune understands, like there's this reality and then there's the greater reality, right? And so we talk about Neptune being the planet of illusion, but really what Neptune is trying to get us to understand is like, this is the illusion, right? And so, yeah, I don't know why I just went off on that little tangent there, but whatever. Yeah, you're being guided, and you're being given the opportunity to close out those old timelines, those old possibilities, and really choose the trajectory that you want to go in. And so this time is so crucial for that. So really just pay attention, be open to that guidance and where it's calling you to step up and lead, where it wants to take you, and just like go along for that journey. And then we have inner temple, devotion. Tune into the portal of your heart, right? So where does that energy want to take you? How do you tune into that energy? Through the heart, right? Like we talk about this all the time. I just mentioned it earlier in the video, right? How the heart is the gateway to the fifth dimension. That unity consciousness, which is what Neptune's all about, that unconditional love consciousness. That is our key. That is our access point for this fifth dimensional energy. Like the fifth dimension has been anchored into this reality now. We are merging and blending those dimensions, but we're still able to move fluidly around in that right now. It's not going to be as fluid in the future, but it is that fluid right now. And so, just really, or maybe it will, maybe I'm wrong. See, this is the Neptune. This is that energy of Neptune is being like, maybe I'm fucking wrong. Like, why do I say that? It's probably will always be that easy, right? Like, we can tune into the portal of our heart anytime. This is something interesting that's been coming up a lot lately, is just this basic knowledge, right? And this understanding of the fact that, like, we can tap back into our joy at any moment. Like, we can change our reality in any moment by changing our perception. And like, we may shift back and forth, but we can always bring it back to the heart center. It doesn't matter how many times a day we have to do this, just practicing bringing it back to the heart, bringing it back to the heart, bringing it back to the heart, bringing it back to that inner temple of the heart. And so just really getting into the habit of doing that, like, for a lot of us, this Neptune retrograde is going to be a time where we really evaluate where we're at spiritually. Those of us who are on a spiritual mission and feel that we have a spiritual purpose, like, we look at that and we think, like, how am I really doing with that? Like, am I devoted to my spiritual practice? Am I devoted to myself? And how could I be more devoted to that? Like, we're really going to be longing for that connection and feeling that longing for that devotion, and really possibly recommitting ourselves to a spiritual program, a spiritual, like, rituals, those things that we do regularly, making these new spiritual habits that will benefit us in the future. And so I feel that coming through a lot. And it's just like, that's our guide through this whole thing. That's, that's how we receive this guidance, right? From our guides, from our angels. That's how we do everything, is by tuning into that inner temple. That is the portal. The heart is the portal, right? And so just really tuning into that and centering into that and meditating on that. I was talking with someone earlier about this idea of thinking of, if it's hard to get into that vibration of love, thinking of the person that we love most in the world, right? And just really a person that we love most in the world that brings us a sense of joy when we think about them. And just really tapping into the energy of how it feels to love that, right? Because it's so much easier for a lot of us to love another than it is to have that same love for ourselves. So we can utilize that, though, and think about the way that we feel, that kind of love that we feel. Someone that, like a child, someone that we have that pure love for, and then just send that energy back into ourselves and use that as a connector to bring us into that energy of love, right? That energy of devotion. And just, oh my God, I'm feeling it now. It's like this warmth that's washing over me, of just like, when you sink into that energy, it's just so beautiful, and it's available to us all the time. And Spirit just wants us all to know that we can go there whenever we want. Our church, our temple is inside, it's within, it's right here. And we have access to that all the time. And the more time we make to grant ourselves access to that, to let ourselves know that we're worthy of that, the more anchored into this fifth dimension we become, and the more fluidly and gracefully we're able to move through this process. It's like love is the balm, the elixir. Like, it's so funny. It's so funny. This is coming through right now. So it's like we do all of this stuff, right, to help ease this ascension process and to make it easier. But love, just tapping into that frequency of love, of devotion, is all the healing that we need. Is just being able to do that. Like, that is the cure for whatever it is that we are imagining ails us, right? That is the dissolver that helps us to realize that there's really nothing ailing us at all. And so just the more we're able to tap into that, you know, and that's why like the healing that I do, that I offer for people is so helpful, because it helps to tap, it's translates to angelic, of healing of the heart. It helps to tap into that heart energy and just really open up that connection, open up that heart portal. And like remind us that like that's what we are. That love is what we are. Like nobody can take that from me, because that is who I am. That is what I am. I am that. I am. And that, my friends, my beautiful, beautiful friends, that is love. That's it. And then we have transformation. Things are changing at a cellular level, deep healing. And this is also like I'm getting the Egyptian vibe from this card too. And it's like I'm seeing this as sort of like the DNA strands that she's holding, right? And then she's got the moon. It's like the lunar cycles. And so lunar cycles makes me think of all the eclipses we're having this year too, right? But it's like just what we were talking about, you know, at a cellular level, our bodies are shifting, our energy systems are shifting. Gaia is shifting at a cellular level, and so are we with her, right? Because we're all living organisms on this planet in these bodies right now, currently, as we are so connected to her. We are part of her. We're like little cells in her body, right? Like little amoebas. And so as she is shifting, we are shifting. And so there is so much healing going on that deep level. And like to access that healing more deeply, connecting with that love, right? That is the balm for all of these perceived wounds, is love, is that devotion, I just have to keep repeating that. That's it, right? But it's like such deep healing is happening right now. And so, you know, sometimes when we're healing deeply, it doesn't feel like healing at all. It feels like the opposite, especially when those wounds are first revealed. Until they're revealed, we can't heal them, right? So this transformation process, especially this transformation card, is also reminding me of the whole ego death, right? We're losing contact with everything that we thought we were. And that's really scary, right? And so we can feel, everything feels unknown. We feel unknown to ourselves. You know, it's one thing when the outside world is changing, which it is, and we see that and we see that chaos, but at least we know who we are, right? And then when all of a sudden we feel like that's taken away from us and we don't even know who we are anymore. I mean, that's really challenging. That can be very intimidating, but it's like we like embracing that and realizing that who you thought you were is so much less than who and what you really are. And so this stripping away of who you thought you were is opening you up to the discovery of who you are. And that discovery is going to be so beautiful if you just allow it to be, right? You know, I think it's funny because it's interesting because we as human beings, right, we can be pretty critical of ourselves. And so we spend all this time criticizing ourselves and being hard on ourselves. But at the same time, we're so attached to this identity of who we are. So I just had this funny thought of like thinking about, you know, myself, right? And I'm like, Kassia, there's so much about you that you are so critical about that you would probably, you know, you wouldn't mind changing, right? So why are you so attached to this person that you're not even all that thrilled about? Like, why is it so difficult to open yourself up to this new version of yourself, right? Like, it's like the familiar we always want to cling on to, even if it's not desirable. It's so fascinating, right? Humans are so fascinating. We're such interesting creatures. And then we have on the bottom of the deck, Starseed. What lights you up? What's your joy? What's your passion? You know, we talk about devotion, we talk about the portal of the heart. That's another way to connect into that heart portal is through joy, right? These are all different: joy, bliss, compassion, tolerance. These are all different vibrations and different octaves of love. And so joy is one of the highest vibrations and octaves of love. Passion, right? So it's like, what makes you passionate? What makes you joyful? What really makes your soul sing, right? Finding those things and being drawn to those things that will lead us, we talk about this all the time, that'll lead us to our mission, that will lead us towards a more full expression of who we are. Like, and this goes in with the ego death, right? It's like, as we're releasing our old identity and who we thought we were, how do we figure out who we are? We look toward what lights us up, what draws us, what interests us, right? And so those are the things that are going to teach us more about who we are becoming. And then we also have the crumbling. What we just talked about. What are you clinging on to? Just let that shit go, man. What are you clinging on to, and why are you clinging on to it? What false sense of security does that bring you? And what could be better out there, right? Like, we always think about what we're losing or what we feel is being taken from us, right? But what if, instead of thinking about what we're giving up, we think about what we could possibly gain, and we imagine the best and most exciting possible outcome of what it is that we could gain? How exciting and how cool would that be? And how much beauty and bounty would that manifest for us if we thought about things like that and allowed ourselves to wonder and allowed ourselves to dream and allowed ourselves to imagine those things that light us up and those coming in to take the place of the things that we're letting go? Yeah. And then we got unbound, releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. So we've been doing this for a while too, right? And so this is soul patterns. We were talking about, you know, the patterns of victim, perpetrator, rescuer. We're talking about these patterns of powerlessness. We're talking about these patterns, just all of these patterns that aren't serving us anymore in those regards. We're talking about addictions, right? And escapism and all of the things that we use to fill that void within ourselves that spirit is here offering and wanting to fill, right? Like, we're never actually empty. We have the whole universe inside of us. It's just we forgot how to connect to it, and we forgot how to feel it. We forgot how to sink into this portal, this love portal that exists within our hearts. And so we're reconnecting to that. And then those things start falling away because we don't need them anymore. Because we were trying to fill a space that was never really empty. It was so full. We just didn't know how to feel it and how to see it. That's the illusion, right? Is that there's something empty or something lacking within us when we are everything and we have everything. It's just like, this is the great remembering. We're remembering that. Yeah. And so for people, we're going to be clearing out soul contracts as well. As we grow and as we evolve, some of these, and when we talk about soul contracts, this is like an agreement that we made with another soul before we came into this incarnation, that we were going to work on something together. Somebody was going to teach us something. We were going to teach somebody something. We were going to resolve some karma. There was something that was agreed upon. And there are also soul contracts that have nothing to do with other people either. I'm being called to talk about this right now. So there are soul contracts that we made with ourselves and things that we agreed to that maybe aren't necessary anymore because we've grown beyond them or we've completed that contract. Like, we agreed to come into this life maybe at a certain income level. And we've experienced what we needed to experience from that. And now that contract is fulfilled, we've learned those lessons and we're ready to upgrade. We're ready to experience more abundance, right? Like, we agreed to come into this incarnation with some of our soul gifts kind of dormant so that we could learn how to embrace those and how to integrate those and how to value that, right? And now that we've learned that lesson, we're ready to embrace those aspects of our soul again. We're ready to embrace those gifts, right? Like, soul contracts can be absolutely anything. It doesn't necessarily have to involve another soul. It can just involve our own soul, right? And our own soul's journey. And so we've completed a lot of those. We've learned those lessons, and we're releasing those and getting ready to move into this next stage of our evolution. And so that's really, really beautiful. Like, we're becoming unbound. All of the things, all of that, when we talk about the tarot, like, right? Like, all of those devil energies, those are, allow Neptune to dissolve those. Neptune wants to dissolve all of this stuff for you right now during this retrograde. It wants to dissolve these old soul patterns. Like, maybe Pluto made these really, really apparent, right, during the Pluto retrograde, and but we didn't know what to do about it, and we were trying to release it, but we felt like we were kind of stuck in it. Like, Neptune's coming in and saying, all right, I got you. Let me take this now. Let me dissolve this. Let's let this go. But you have to be willing to look into the unknown, to really stare through that glass into, like, what's possible on the other side. But, like, you have to be willing to let it go. You have to be willing. If you're willing to let me take it, if you're willing to let me dissolve it, I will do that for you. So that's really happening. That's definitely happening. And it's like hang-ups that we had in past lives, traumas from past lives. We're dissolving and healing a lot of that stuff too. We're becoming unbound from that. And part of what we're doing is, as we're integrating these past lives, right? Past, everything's happening in an eternal now. So there really is no such thing as a past life. But for points of linear time, we'll call it a past life, right? We are healing these energies, we're healing these traumas around that stuff, and we're integrating those past lives. So it's not like we're becoming free from them in the sense that, like, they were holding us back and now, like, we're cutting the link. It's like we are unifying that energy. We're calling that energy back. We're becoming whole, and we're healing anything around that. We may have, for some of you, you may have people that you were connected with in past lives that are coming in or coming back around, simply so that these soul contracts can be resolved once and for all. And so that may be something that some of you are experiencing. And this, you may have experienced this also with the Venus retrograde, Pluto, with anything throughout this whole year. This isn't just specific to the Neptune retrograde, any of this stuff really, like, but it's more pronounced, right? But yeah, that may be coming back, and it may, like, don't necessarily assume that because you feel a connection with someone, that means that you're meant to, like, really explore that. And especially if you feel like you're stuck in it, right? This is about becoming unbound. They may just be coming in so that you can release that once and for all. You know, like, whenever we've known someone in a past life, like, a lot of times, especially with all of this Neptunian energy, we can become aware of that, and we might think that because we recognize someone's energy, that means that they're meant to be in our lives, and that's not necessarily true. They may be meant to come into our lives for a season and a reason, or really even just briefly for some of us, so that we can clear that up, right? Like, maybe we made a contract with someone to learn and teach each other specific things. But then before our souls met together at the agreed upon time to do this, we had already healed a bunch of that stuff. And so we don't need to heal that anymore. That soul contract is now null and void because we've already accomplished what our souls coming together was going to accomplish. And so it's okay to acknowledge that and allow that to be what it is. And if we have healed that stuff, then we've cleared that. And the only thing left to do is to embrace them, to meet them, to see them, and to let them go. To not allow ourselves to be dragged back down into that energy. Yeah. So I don't know. That was something for somebody to hear as well, I think. Maybe a few of us. But that energy is coming up as well, is like, yeah, sometimes those contracts are nullified if we've grown to a certain point by the time those people come into our lives. And so then if we're not learning anything new, if it's not feeling like anything new, like, don't beat a dead horse. If we can recognize right off the bat, like, this is an old pattern, or like this isn't fueling me or isn't feeding me, or I'm not getting anything from this, either positively or negatively, like, we don't have to stick around for that. That's just there to show us that sometimes. Yeah, so some people may be also having people come into their lives just to show them that they have released these old soul patterns, these old soul contracts, that we have actually moved beyond certain behaviors, certain limiting beliefs, certain dynamics, because that is presented to us and we don't take the bait anymore because it just doesn't resonate with us. We don't feel a pull to it anymore. So if you're feeling that, don't confuse the pull or the connection or the recognition of a soul that you've known before with that same pull that of like, I need to repeat this cycle. Like, it's not necessarily that. Yeah, and then align your life. What is not aligned or needs to change. So that's part of what we're realizing and understanding here. All right. Yeah. And then, all right, I'll read this one too. Don't dim your light to fit in. So Neptune is Neptune and Uranus, right, are like the oddballs, right? So it's just really embracing whatever makes you unique, whatever makes you weird, whatever oddities you're being called to right now, right? Like Neptune is all about the odd, but like the odd is beautiful. And so just really embracing that aspect of yourself. Yeah. And then we also have break the chain, ancestral patterns, healing, rewriting the future. So this is all the stuff that we're doing right now, guys. And it's so fucking cool. Like we're healing all of that stuff. We're releasing all of that stuff. It's just like we're rising into this whole new frequency and to this whole new level. And with the ancestral patterns as well, it's also, so we're breaking the ones that are toxic, but some of us may also be getting reacquainted with the ones that resonate with us. And we may be learning to call on our ancestors and connect with our ancestors more, and like that wisdom and that heritage. And just really, whether it's our ancestors in our physical lineage on this earth, our past life ancestors on this earth, or like our ancestors in the stars. Like we're bringing in and incorporating and being drawn to all of the healthy characteristics of that we resonate with, and we're releasing all of the outdated ones that we don't, and healing any of that toxicity where that might lay in those patterns as well. So it's like a dual thing. It's pretty cool. And I said I was going to do Isis, so we will pull an Isis card here to close out. I'm surprised we didn't get to the astrology cards today, but it's just, I was really feeling those cards for you guys. And we're not pulling all of those. Spirit, give me one card to close out this reading. One card for Neptune Retrograde 2020. One card for Neptune Retrograde 2020. Well, thank you. Okay. We got magic and ritual, crafting sacred practice. So we were talking about that at the beginning, right? It's this really, as we review our spiritual process and where we're at with that and our spiritual practice and how we navigate that and how we exemplify our spiritual beliefs, right, in our lives, how we find that devotion, right, how we connect to that heart portal, how we do all of this stuff. We're really being called and asked to commit to something concrete with that. Not something in like a, oh God, I have to do this, but like something that fuels us, that lights us up, right? Like what lights you up? Something that makes us feel good. Some way of really, we're going to be called to connect with that more deeply and just really create something that works for us. You know, Neptune isn't about religion. Neptune is about spirituality, right? And so religion is somebody else's experience. Spirituality is our own experience. And so we're really being called to, we can pull from different things, different modalities. And if there is a specific religion that really resonates with you, I mean, I'm not saying don't do that. If there's a practice and it opens up your heart center and it makes you feel connected like that, then absolutely do that. But I'm saying, like, for a lot of us, we're being called to craft our own spiritual practice. Something that really resonates with us and brings us into that state of connection. And we may be called to certain types of, there may be aspects of different religions that we do want to incorporate, different spiritual practices, different things that we're being called to look into more. So definitely explore a lot of those things. For some people who are really just starting to get in touch with their spirituality, who are realizing that they don't resonate with what they believed before, this could be a really fun process during this Neptune retrograde of trying on different hats to see which one fits, trying out different things, different combinations of things. It's not like you have to be like, okay, I'm going to meditate every morning at 7:45 a.m. and I'm going to do it like this, just like this book said, and like A, B, and C. And then like realizing that doesn't work for you at all, but like, oh, I decided to do it this way, so I'm going to stick to it. Like, no, it doesn't mean that at all. Like, if that doesn't work, try something else. Try meditating differently. Maybe don't meditate. Maybe go for a walk. Maybe light some candles. Maybe go, dance naked in the woods. Whatever is calling to you, try out different things. Just really experiment and have fun with it. And you will know when you feel that sacred energy, you will know that you're connected, and you'll know that that's what it is for you. If you don't know the energy that I'm talking about, you don't know the feeling that I'm talking about, keep trying things until you do. Let's see if there's anything in this card here that we want to. Effect in the external world can be created through inner practice, right? As within, so without. Magic and ritual can support your divine path now in the physical world, and you are encouraged to enhance your power with regular practice. The results that you experience will encourage you to continue with the practice as you grow in power, grace, love, ability, and wisdom, and apply your inner beauty to transform your outer world. For us to grow empowered and potent on the path of ancient feminine power, we need to honor our knowing and being and cultivate sacred practice. Sacred practice becomes the habit of growing our spiritual power and consciousness, right? So this is just all about that too, is just how we are growing in spiritual power, and we're growing in consciousness during this time, and just really embracing that process. Like a garden needing regular care and watering to blossom and flourish, our inner garden of the soul, where our creativity, joy, spiritual gifts, and bliss bubble away, also needs regular attention. Coming to our practice takes strength and inner will. Even though it can feel amazing, we still have to wake up, set aside time, and discipline ourselves to show up for our own inner growth. But like I said, make it fun. We will reap the benefits when we do what we must allow ourselves to fall in love with our practice, to craft something that really speaks to us so that we want to do it. Okay, yeah, that's where it is. That's what we were talking about, right? When you get that feeling, when you connect with that energy, when you know, like, this is it, and it feels so good and so sacred and so right that you want to do it every day, and it feels like an honor instead of a burden. That's what we're talking about. The desire and the discipline together help us engage with our practice regularly, and we can grow so fast it can be quite shocking. When an initiate shows particular promise, higher guidance will often encourage that they develop a regular practice to hone their spiritual and creative abilities and more fully manifest their divine potential. They will grow faster and stronger spiritually and be able to step into spiritual healing and leadership to greater effect. Right? Wasn't that the first card we got from the Work Your Light deck? Was about where are you being called to step up and lead? You are one such soul, dear initiate, and you are being guided to prepare for this growth and authority now with your sacred practice. This oracle is guidance that you do have great power and wisdom within you, but you need to provide channels for it to flow and be active and empowered in your physical life. Sacred practice is such a channel. Without these channels, the ego is left to create on its own, which is not much fun at all. The ego right? Dissolving of the ego. The ego believes in fear and separation, and no matter how much it may want to feel love, bliss, connection, joy, and fulfillment, it really cannot do it without your spiritual presence in life. Ritual and magic, as a form of sacred practice, are recommended for you as a way to bring more spiritual presence into your waking life, to heal and support the ego as you learn to create a life that feels better and brings you and others more fulfillment. And so I want to stop right here because I like this, and it brings up something. Because we talk about this, right? We talk about the dissolving of the ego and how we're leaving the ego behind and all of this. And the ego gets a really bad rap. But really, in order for us to have a human experience, we had to have an ego. It's our sense of self. It's our sense of identity. It's our vehicle through which we learn about ourselves and about the world, right? And we learn how to unlearn. I know that sounds weird, but, So, yeah, the ego is not a bad thing, and it's not something to battle. And we're never going to be able to transcend the ego consciousness if we feel that we're battling it, right? Because what we resist persists. So it's about comforting the ego. It's about loving the ego. It's about making the ego our friend. I had a spiritual teacher, and he likes to talk about the fact that when he talks to his ego as a friend, and he tells it like, okay, I've got this situation. I appreciate you. I don't need your help with this situation right now, but I'll let you know when I do. Right? Because sometimes it is important to call in the ego, and it is helpful throughout our day-to-day experience. But it's like making the ego our friend and not our enemy. Anything that we're constantly fighting, we're going to be constantly fighting. So I thought that was interesting that they worded it like that, and I wanted to bring that up too. So when we dissolve the ego, what we're really doing is dissolving it back into ourselves. We're getting rid of everything that's not real and just taking that truth and internalizing that truth. Ritual and magic as a form of sacred practice are recommended for you as a way to bring more spiritual presence into your waking life. Oh yeah, I just read that. To heal and support the ego as you learn to create a life that feels better and brings you and others more fulfillment. Sacred practice with magic and ritual may involve any of the guided exercises in this oracle. Choose what feels good for you and experiment with what might be a regular pattern of practice for you. Yeah, once again, for anyone who is interested in getting this, I'm holding it. The Isis Oracle deck. Yeah. You are worth the effort. Remember, whatever effort you do put in will be repaid to you in wonderful benefits many, many times over. Once you experience these effects, and it might only take a day or a week or two for the effect to show itself, you will be more committed to continue. The effects are cumulative. As you continue to practice, the positive effects continue to grow. If you have recently started sacred practice, this oracle is confirmation that it is working well for you, and you should not give up if you are not seeing the results you had hoped for. They are coming to you fast. This oracle is also confirmation that if you are considering making an adjustment to your sacred practice, it might be time to do so, provided that you don't dismiss the gains you have already made with your current practice, and you remember that sometimes small changes have big effect. Right? So this is just what we're talking about. If it's not feeling right, switch it up. If it is feeling right, just continue with it. Just allow yourself that process of falling in love with the process. Ritual and magic practice with clear intent to be of service to the highest good and to manifest through unconditional love accelerates your power and growth, particularly when it is based on what your heart truly desires. It might be about connecting more with your body, about stilling your mind, or expressing your voice or creativity. As an example of a practice is outlined now, but it is simply an example. As long as your practice includes invocation or prayer to divine forces of unconditional love, provides a structure through which divine energy can flow, and it feels natural and right for you, then it will work for you. Please note that if you have pulled the Pillar of Light card together with this one, as the heart of your practice, it is recommended at this time. We did not. What was on the bottom of the deck, though, is Cartouche. Divine Names of Power. And so this has been coming up a few times. I know it's been coming up for people I know in my personal life as well, of like our soul names being revealed to us. The names of our soul, right? And so you may hear this, you may seek this in meditation, you may hear this. At first I dismissed it a little bit because I don't feel a super connection to names. Names to me are just like another unnecessary label that once we move into a certain density of energy, we recognize simply by vibration. However, I've been sort of opened, right? Because it's like realizing that I'm not always right. Opened to the idea that there may be much more power than we thought in names. And really knowing the name of your soul, right? And our souls may have many names, right? Or maybe there is one ultimate true name for our soul. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I do know everything. But I know that for some, connecting with the name or some sort of resonance of their soul, whether it's a sound, whether it's a frequency, whether it is a name, and I guess a name is a sound and a frequency, right? When you speak it out loud, or even thinking creates a frequency. So yeah, I guess it is a sound and a frequency, right? There's power in that. There's something that it can unlock within you. So asking for your spiritual name, meditating on that, right? Being open to hearing that or to understanding that, coming into a knowing of that for some of you is going to be really big as well. All right. So that's what I've got for you guys today on the Neptune retrograde. I hope that you enjoyed this video. As always, if you enjoyed it, like it. It definitely helps our videos get out to more people. Comment if it resonated. Comment with any of your experiences. We love to hear from all of you. And yeah, for people who are a little bit confused, when I say we, I mean myself and Kayla. This is a joint channel, so you'll see videos from me, you'll see videos from her, you'll see videos that we do together. And so we like giving you guys the benefit of both of our different perspectives and energies. And we both absolutely love you all so much. Take advantage of our services if there's one of us that you resonate with. As I said before, our information is in the description box below. And yeah, I think that's pretty much all. I think I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that I need to say. I was going to say that I'm supposed to say, but I guess there is no supposed to, right? Like everything happens perfectly, exactly as it's meant to. Everything unfolds as it's meant to. And anything that was important for me to say during this video, I did say. So yeah, with that, I'm going to let you guys go for now. And I wish you the most insightful, empowering, and spiritually uplifting Neptune retrograde. Bye.